Sometimes a story is just a story, but more often than not, they are a lesson cloaked in entertainment. The stories I share here are definitely the latter. Some are fact, some are fiction, all are beneficial. Hello, my name is Earl Breon, and you are listening to The Leadership Chronicles. Today's story is called Right Solution, Wrong Problem. This story was shared by Mr. Ernesto Ceroli during his TED Talk and from a few other sources. It is a great TED Talk, and I encourage you to go listen to it after this. Ernesto shares the story of how the Italian government created some of its global outreach initiatives. It was during one such trip that he ran into the experience that he shares during his talk. You see, he and his team were in southern Zambia helping a village that lived near the Zambezi River. He and his team noticed the river valley looked a lot like the fertile farmland back home. Why, with such a great farmland around them, was this village starving for food? Well, to them, the answer was obvious. They just didn't know how to farm. So he and his team began teaching the people farming techniques. They tried to teach them how to grow Italian tomatoes, zucchinis, and other vegetables suited for the environment. But the villagers were not all that interested in what they were doing. Why? It frustrated his team, but they would trudge on. These people needed their help, whether they knew it or not. So Ernesto and his team kept at it. They even offered to pay some of the locals to help them work. That only had moderate success. But again, he and his team were there to help. And as soon as the people saw the bounty of the harvest, they would be more willing to pitch in. So he and his team worked and worked those fields. They had everything going well. Vegetables were ripening on the vine and looking amazing. This really was pristine farmland. But the villagers still didn't seem all that excited by the harvest in the field. Why? Well, a few days before the actual harvest commenced, the answer came thundering in like a herd of hippos. In all actuality, it was a herd of hippos. An estimated 200 hippos came out from the river and decimated the crops, eating just about everything in sight. Ernesto and his crew were devastated. All that hard work for the villagers just gone overnight. But the villagers? Not so much. In fact, they came around to comfort the aid workers. And then one of them made the comment. This happens every time. This is why we do not farm the valley. What? Why didn't you tell us this months ago? His team asked. Well, you never really explained to us your purpose or asked us why we didn't grow crops. You just came in and said about your work. That's why nobody was really keen to help you out. They knew you were just feeding the hippos, and we have more important things to do with our time. Wow, what a leadership lesson that is right there, huh? How often do you set about fixing a problem for a friend, your team, a loved one, or even your organization because you're trying to do the right thing? The problem is you're trying to fix something that is either not a real problem or has been tried to be fixed before and the solution isn't worth the effort. In the Marines, we'd call this trying to find a problem for your solution. And that isn't a good thing. Look, we all have a limited amount of time on this globe. If you're going to invest in fixing problems, then you need to value that time enough to do the appropriate level of research to ensure that it is time well spent. Plus, going around always trying to fix non-existent problems is not a great way to inspire confidence in your team. It makes you look out of touch with the reality of the organization, and the lack of communication tells your team that you don't really value their opinion. These are two qualities that great leaders do not possess. So what is the best strategy? Use what I call the law of proportional decision making. Get ready to write this down. This law says the amount of time you spend making a decision should be directly proportional to potential outcomes. I'll say that again. The amount of time you spend making a decision should be directly proportional to potential outcomes. If it is a small personal decision, then make it. If it's a big decision that will impact your team, your organization, anybody else besides you, really, then bring them into the discussion. Applying this to problem solving will go a long way. Maybe your team already has a solution but hasn't had time to pitch it yet. Maybe they will see something that you don't as to why your solution will not work. But the point is, bringing them in, finding out what the actual problem is that needs addressing is the way to generate buy-in. And buy-in not just for the solution, but for you as a leader. It also helps avoid wasting time. Always seek to find the right solution for the right problem, not the right solution for the wrong problem, or look for a problem for your solution. Those last two are just wastes of time. The easiest way to do that is by embracing the cognitive diversity of your team and getting them involved in the conversation. All right, time for a few growth questions for you here. Have you ever tried to fix an issue that really didn't exist? If so, how did that effort turn out for you? What lessons did you learn from that experience? Do you incorporate your team in the decision-making process as much as possible? If not, why not? How much does it mean to you when your leaders value your opinion and get you involved in the decision-making process? Which organization are you more likely to stick with? The one that sees you as part of the solution, or just goes about trying to fix things without your input? Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The story of how the right solution to the wrong problem can still make you look pretty silly, and how it can undermine your leadership. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Leadership Chronicles. To continue the discussion, find me on Twitter at Earl_Breon, Facebook at facebook.com/Layman Leadership, all one word, or email me at podcast@earlbreon.com.